Welcome back to the weekly Brickcast podcast. On today's Brickcast episode, we're going to be discussing EnergyCell and the April 23rd, 2017 incident on Brick Hill. Before we get started, let me just say, if you wish to support the Brickcast podcast, you can purchase merchandise linked in the description. If you do purchase this merchandise, you can get the patrons role in the Discord server, which is shown on the screen that you're currently viewing. Also, if you want to get notified of new videos, make sure to subscribe and turn on all notifications, as by looking at the statistics of the YouTube channel, only 13.3% of viewers are subscribed. Now, with that being said, we're going to start the podcast with a brief discussion of EnergyCell himself. So Blocky, if you want to start us off with that.
Alright, so basically EnergyCell, he's been around the old Roblox community, if you will, for a good while, since I think... don't quote me on this, but I believe he's been around since 2013, 2014. He's been there since a while. And he started multiple different projects and stuff like that within this whole sphere. And somehow, I'm not too sure, possibly through Block City or other people telling him about it, he found his way to Brick Hill. But again, from that, he was, hired as a Brick Hill web developer. And there you go. And the Victoria, it was kind of like Finob, all those types of old Roblox survivals. It was the one that pretty sure came before, Finob, but yeah. It had a lot of controversies involving Victoria itself, but we won't really get much into it. Some people think there's a malware, but it wasn't 100% proven, so that just putting that out there. But again, EnergyCell as a person is very, very weird, very controversial at best.
Yeah, he was a very controversial and just weird person in general. So we're going to be moving next onto the events of April 23rd, 2017 itself. So this will be making up the majority of the podcast. So basically, on April 23rd, 2017, what happened was EnergyCell deleted a portion of the database. So if you tried to log in, your user just didn't exist. But if you made a new account, you would get the items and the avatar of the person whose user ID it would have been when you created that account, because he deleted every user in the database, but he didn't delete the crates or anything like that. So yeah, Blocky, do you want to add anything to that?
Oh yeah, for sure. I remember, during the incident, right, the April 23rd, I was there, but I was not really there. I was at school, because it happened on the early hours of the day. Since thing is, again, it was happened in the early hours. I'll let Rag explain a bit more, and then I'll come back real quick.
So from what I've heard, EnergyCell, there's not really a clear reason why EnergyCell just decided to wipe the user database. But when he did, the site had to kind of go down. And in that time, Luke and Space were literally bargaining with EnergyCell to try and, convince him to bring back the whole database and stuff. Once the site got back, you could just register and you'd have someone else's, you'd have the name that you signed up with, but you wouldn't have, but you wouldn't have, a new crate. You'd have that ID's crate, they're in their avatar, too. Which I think I remember, but I don't know whose ID I got, but I do remember getting someone else's avatar. It was very weird, and it's probably the closest Brick Hill has ever gotten to, shutting down.
Yes, most definitely. Again, like you said, you'd be able to have the same avatar as, the person that had the same ID right there. You explained it better. But still, I remember the exact person that I took the look to. It's O.O. His avatar was really wacky, and that's how I remembered it. It was literally he was wearing the belly shirt, and his character was just completely skin, and they only had like the summer headband. So yeah, the guy that I took avatar, he was really wacky. But yes, again, back to my story, to the whole school thing. Like, I was right there at school, because again, early hours, and I was freaking out because I didn't know how to take it. Like, I don't know what was happening. I just, I wanted to log in, right? Because I wanted to check the kill at school. At the time, I wasn't really that active on Discord, so I had no clue what's going on. So I logged in. I tried to log in. It didn't work. My password was apparently wrong, so I did it again multiple times, and still, it didn't work at all. Nothing worked. So I searched my user up on the Brickhill web user search, right? And I saw that my user was not there. It did not exist. So I tried registering my account, and it worked. It worked. I don't know what. It worked. And after that, that's when I realized something was awfully wrong, since my avatar looked really wacky. My user ID was not the same, and it was stressful for sure, because I thought I lost literally everything. I no longer had my shirt. My shirt wasn't even uploaded on the shop anymore. Gone. And I had many items that I never actually bought. My bucks and bits count was set to 0. So again, in my perspective, it was very, very weird. Because again, I didn't have Discord. I didn't have like Skype or anything. Well, I had Skype, but the people I had over there was very few and far in between. And since it was the early hours of the day, the people that I used to contact were at school. So again, I had no clue what to make of it. And I'm sure those who were on the Discord were just completely freaking out. If anyone here has right now was on the Discord, please explain what happened over there, because I have no clue if people are starting to realize anything was happening or whatever.
Well, I wasn't like exactly on the Discord. A part of it wasn't all too active, but if I recall, around that time, I actually left the Discord because I thought like Brickhill just completely scammed me and just deleted my account for no reason. So I definitely agree with you that was probably one of the closest times to Brickhill shutting down, because obviously summer 2017, that was pretty dead, and I'd say that was like a really crucial part of Brickhill. If it didn't survive that, it was going to shut down. But I believe that April 23rd, 2017 was the first time there was like a major risk of Brickhill shutting down, especially because something else to mention that happened on April 23rd of 2017, EnergyCell actually leaked the database on the forums briefly, and it had a ton of information, like including user emails and stuff like that.
Why a couple of older accounts were banned from that day was simply due to the fact that all the IDs that were affected during the database breach were banned, right, on the current site, which is why all the accounts were banned, all the old accounts.
All of the accounts which hadn't logged in for like a year before a certain date were all banned, because the old database, people were starting to crack the passwords, because although they were hashed and salted in bcrypt, if the passwords weren't all that secure originally, it was increasingly easy over time to crack their passwords and get into their accounts. So yeah,
for sure. The effects of the April 23rd database leak was still relevant far into the Brickhill's future, because again, a lot of the older users, right, such as me, Rag, Dysphoria, we all were affected here. All of our older credentials were put out there, which was a huge scare.
Yeah, I would say that a few people might have even left Brickhill permanently because of that when it happened.
Yeah. And another thing that was influenced by that, once a couple of high-end users, like for example King, were breached. Their specials, everything was taken away from them from their accounts.
Yeah, this was when users started to crack the bcrypt hashes because they were using really simple passwords and they just never changed them from 2017. So between these old accounts, we're just getting hijacked into and their items and specials stolen.
Exactly, it's horrible. But that's one incident from the other one that was the main one, the whole, the April 23rd event. Like the whole crate thing, that was really weird. And again, I really wish to see it within the Discord, but just couldn't.
I'm very glad Breakhill managed to get through it. Like, imagine where we'd all be if it just shut down because of that.
Oh,
and
yeah, certainly.
Exactly.
I also want to talk about Edgar and how people think he had partial involvement with it. He didn't. Edgar didn't really do much in terms of, the database breach and stuff. That was mostly EnergyCell and partially Quame, which was another staff that, helped with the whole thing. But EnergyCell was the guy who did it, and he was the one who did most of it. He didn't. Edgar had no part in it. He just
no involvement at all.
Yeah, as we mentioned in the previous episode of the Brickcast, a common misconception is that Edgar was some amazing Brickhill hacker who leaked the database and leaked the site code and all of this. He did none of that. As Rag mentioned, the April 23rd, 2017 database leak was from EnergyCell, a web developer, and the other one, as Rag mentioned, was Kwame. I don't think Kwame or Quame or ever had any involvement in the April 23rd, 2017 one, but he definitely did leak the April 19th, 2017 database and site source.
Exactly, the source code that Quame leaked is still sort of relevant today. We constantly, on the forums, on the Discord, people advertise these sites that are using the old Brickhill database from around when Quame leaked it.
Yeah, and the thing about these sites is they're incredibly vulnerable to everything. This isn't a huge vulnerability, but one of the things you can do on these old website source websites that people host is you can literally just set your avatar to anything, because the renderer is client side, so you can just send your avatar or any image you want as base 64 as in a post request to the server, and you can just set your avatar to anything basically. And that's not even a huge security vulnerability. There's a lot more you can do. I'm pretty sure you can do stuff like XSS on the forums.
Yeah.
You could probably delete the entire database or even get stuff out of the database. The old site was just so insecure.
Awful. There's some speculation thinking that, the whole April 23rd event was caused by one of these vulnerabilities, SQL injection. It was thought around, that this event was caused by a faulty, unsanitized search area from which they were able to, quote-unquote, drop the database, which at the time you had to know the exact name, but since it was easy to guess, that was dropped. But again,
the database was just had the users as beta users.
Exactly, so that was easy to guess, which is why crate data wasn't necessarily dropped, because it wasn't necessarily a priority, which is why they didn't decide to inject any SQL to it using unsanitized searches and stuff like that. Also, back to the vulnerabilities, that old site it's speculated now that the renderer could have done remote code execution to the server. Oh yeah, not client-sided, no, but you would be able to enter code from which the server was hosted, Brickhill. That's, some people think it's possible. But yeah, case in point, the old site was very, very insecure, completely not up to par like it is today.
One more thing. Oh, go ahead, Ryan.
And not only that, I'm pretty sure, using the old site source code is kind of illegal for, copyright reasons.
Yeah, it's literally, if ever you see one of these sites, just report it, because again, the legal team over at Brickhill is just gonna get rid of it as soon as they can, because these sites, again, they're not secure, but again, they're making money using Brick Hill's code. It's very awful. It's a very awful thing.
They are making money off of Brick Hill's trademark and brand.
Yeah, and the fact that some of these sites try to use like, oh, old Brick Hill nostalgia, come join to relive old Brick Hill, but what they don't know is that,
the communities on these websites, the communities on these websites are like nothing like old Brick Hill. You just can't remake that. It's a problem I share with many old Roblox revivals. It's just that the community isn't the same. It'll never be the same, no matter how much you try to revive it.
Not only that, like, most of the people on those sites probably weren't even there.
Yeah, most users on like old Brick Hill websites joined like this year or last year.
And literally, I actually kind of searched a bit, but the last site that I found that was using an old source was created by, get this, a 2020er. Yeah, the tornado or whatever. He hosted this around December, and he didn't even experience the old Brick Hill at all.
Really reliving that nostalgia.
Yeah, really reliving it, and it was hilarious because on the application forms, he admitted him as the owner because he just, hey, if you wanna be hired, contact this Discord, and that Discord account was linked to the Brick Hill Discord, so you were able to figure out who that guy was really easily. It's down now, but really funny stuff.
One thing about the old site too, especially the site source warehouse, if I recall, there's actually an API in the old site source code. I think it's called the Isaiah API that just lets you grant any item you want if you know the API link.
It wasn't surprising. I remember there was even one API which would just, if you found it, you would be able to download any single game that was hosted. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Dragonian found that one.
Thank God we don't have the old site anymore.
Yeah, speaking of games, these old site revivals, they don't even have the client, which was one of the main draws of the old site. It's just forums. If you want forums, why wouldn't you just use Modern Brick Hill? There's no point.
Exactly, I know if ever you're trying to use the excuse, oh, I'm just recreating beta. Oh, no, it's not going to happen. Because the thing that made Brick Hill beta so special was that there were just a few selected amount of users allowed on there. You just using the excuse, oh, it's beta. No, it's not going to work. Because your site is available to anyone, so it ruins it. It completely ruins the whole appeal that beta had.
Doesn't have the tight-knit community like beta had, where everybody knew each other.
Not at all, no.
Yeah, like I mentioned before, you can do nothing to bring the old community back. Once time has passed, it's just impossible to recreate the same feeling that there was then. It's you don't play Finob and have the same community as you had on Roblox in 2012. People move on, people grow up, and the new people who want to play that experience probably weren't even there, so they won't know or have the same experiences that the people who played it originally did. So
you can recreate the platform, but you can't recreate the player base.
Yeah, exactly.
It's ridiculous, which is why this site that's been leaked from Crame and the database to go along with it is just ridiculous. Why would you ever want to use that? The only way you would use the whole database or site is for malicious purposes, to make money off of Brick Hill's back. It's really not the greatest. Not at all.
Or an example of how not to have a site with many security holes.
Exactly. Again, having that site opened up and hosted is just it's just a death wish, because you're actually able to now see the code. So there might be vulnerabilities that not even I or anyone else knows that could be very, very damaging.
Yeah,
Which-
because one thing I just hadn't thought of is like if you are hosting the old site code, you have to consider that literally everyone else can see the code of the website, so they can see every single vulnerability and exploit every single vulnerability if you make no efforts to fix them.
Exactly, and the thing is that most people who host these sites do no effort. No effort. They just host it, and they just plug in the old database, and there you go. You're done. It's a done job. But
Sometimes they don't even host it right. Like there's PHP errors on pages.
Wow.
that's another thing. I remember, back then on the older site, you'd actually be able to, like, if ever you say you had an error somewhere, there would be an SQL error right there that you would be able to read.
Yeah.
Old beta, yeah, because they forgot to disable that option. So you'd be able to see the exact error code that occurred. And it would actually tell you the name of the database and the whole thing included, the whole package. So that's great. That's fun.
Speaking of the database, that's the 4/23/17 incident, April 23rd. That's also where the sign came from. If you guys were wondering, it was created after the whole incident was resolved and it was all back to normal. I think it was on sale for actually quite a while, like until like
Yeah,
July.
it released in like May, which was like a month after, and it was on
Yeah.
sale for quite a bit. It was free,
Yeah, which is
if I recall.
which is why you see so many owners. Because again, it was on sale for like ever. Like at this point, I think there's around 400 and something users, and for a hat hosted back then, that's a ridiculous amount of owners. So like back then, and again, it was cheap. So again, there were just too many owners on that one. And yeah, it was great.
If I recall, Blocky will know some more about that hat actually, because
Yeah, exactly.
I'm pretty sure he suggested it. Did you?
Yeah, I did. I was actually asking for like Brick Luke himself, hey, wanna make a sign for that? And every single time it would be like, nah, not right now. I used to pester him about it. But finally, one day on May something, I finally got through, and he made a very quickly made hat, right? The classic sign hat, and from that spawned many other sign hats.
Yeah. That's
So many.
There's so many of those.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but the classic was basically made just to get me to shut up about it. It's the same way how the Red Velvet fedora was made. I made a retexture, right? And I kept asking Space Builder, hey, want to release this? Hey, want to release this, please? I made a retexture, it looks awesome, please. And the whole community was kind of, well, not the whole community, but those who knew about it, like the retexture. So they made the first Red Velvet hat, and if you look at the description, you'll see it referencing, hey, we released this so you won't have to ask about it anymore. So, yeah, I pestered for both the April 23rd sign and the Red Velvet fedora. But again, like, this is not really blaming them necessarily. It's more so, again, like, you just have to realize how much stress both Rick Luke and Space Builder were put during this incident. Like, their entire database, their entire, like, site has been damaged. Like, just imagine, like, if you were in their situation, which, wow, like, just the amount of stress and just the amount of bartering we had to do with EnergyCell to get the database back. It must have been, like, very stressful.
Yeah, fortunately they did have a backup of the database which they restored to. Another funny tangent about that is the globe released on that day, if I recall, the globe, because it was Earth Day. So like a ton of globe owners were just missing because they had to roll back the site to a very old version. well, not a very old version, but a version from earlier that day. So I think that has like some influence over why Globe is as rare it is today as an item.
Exactly, because at the time I'm pretty sure there was around, if my memory like is correct, 70 plus owners before. Like that around, again, this is old Brick Hill we're talking about. That's an absurd amount of owners. That would be to this day maybe 400 owners, 300, like in comparison. It's just a great amount of owners. But again, like Dysphoria said, it got wiped back to a previous version, and later on, like the whole controversy was that that item was put off sale shortly afterwards, like at around 8.
Yeah, if I remember, people were mad because they like missed the globe because the site was down for like all of the day.
Yeah, and when it was put back up, the globe was put off sale because it was no longer Earth Day, and it was a whole controversy regarding that one. Like, that's great.
I recall also buying antlers on that day, and I didn't actually get the antlers until like a few days later because of that rollback too.
Another artifact of this was the user 1003, I believe.
Yeah.
It was made during the whole database like leak incident. Like it was a completely new user, like that was made before the database dropped and before like the backup was created. So you have this user that was put in limbo, you know? I'm pretty sure
for years that user just didn't exist in the database, so whenever you went to use their 1003 they'd just give you a 404 error.
Yeah, like, again, this is kind of a plug, but you can see this 404 error, like this error that would occur during my first counting stream. Like, I was completely confused at the time because I did not know why this user was bugged, who this user really was. So I was just kind of, you know, doing my old user counting thing, and then I get to 1003, and it just brings me to the user search page. I don't even think there was an error 404 at the time. And I kept going, I kept refreshing, kind of going back to that user, and it would kept pushing me to the user search page, and I was completely confused. And now, actually, this user does not exist anymore. It was replaced with the user -1. So technically, the deleted user 1003 is now the user ID of -1.
Yeah, because they replaced the Brick Hill account's ID with 1003 because if you don't know, having like an ID of -1 is kind of problematic and for a lot of things. So the fact that 1003 was just conveniently missing from the database was really convenient for that. And about 1003 in general, to this day nobody knows who the original 1003 user is or was, because nobody's ever come forward, nobody's got any proof that it was them. Even in old databases from like the day, if you look at databases from the day, they just don't exist.
Yeah, it's the blank line, it's just nothing.
No email, no IP, no password, no username, there's nothing there.
It's like deleted 457, but like it just didn't exist at all.
Like the only thing, at least 457, like if you don't know, 457 had an IP linked to it, which was how we linked 457 to Edgar. Anyways, 1003 didn't even have that. Didn't have a date of birth, didn't have nothing. No IP, no email, no date of creation, nothing. It's like a more advanced version of deleted 457, you know?
It's more obscure too, because like people knew about deleted 457 because there was like an
page.
There was an egg for it, and it had an actual user page, so a lot more people knew about that. But I think very few people actually knew like deleted 1000. User 1003 just didn't exist. Even to this day, I'm still seeing people asking why Brick Hill's user ID was swapped with it.
And again, chances are, like, I'm pretty sure it was an artifact due to the whole April 23rd, 2017 event. Like, again, like I said, this user probably was created, like, before the the database back up, and right before the incident occurred. So this user was lost through time. Like, the user ID still existed, of course, because it was created, but again, there's just no data for it because the database like literally dropped right after its creation.
Yeah, because the database revert did take out some other users too, but at least their user IDs got filled. 1003 just like never got replaced by anything.
Yeah, for sure. Also, right?
And if you're wondering how we have the general idea, if you look at the ID before it, which was 1002. It was created like on the 16th of April, which was around the time the database breach happened. So
exactly, which is just, and at the time, again, accounts wouldn't be created for a couple of days because, like I said, the Brick Hill was very obscure at the time. So all the accounts that would needed to be made have been made. So again, the account creation dates would be spread apart from multiple days, and 1003 was just caught in the crossfire of the entire event, really. Alright, let's just talk about what would have happened if such an event, as the April 23rd, 2017, would have happened today. The modern repercussions of such an insane event, like now that the users have actually spent like hundreds of real life money on that, the database would have been way more difficult to restabilize, and all of this. What do you think would have happened? Do you think this would have spelled the end of Brick Hill, or?
I think if Brick Hill would just die or just stagnate in users. Like, imagine losing all your specials, like especially the richer users. Like, that would be super devastating.
But again,
unless they had a backup.
Like the crate data was not wiped, so users would be able to get the specials of other users.
I personally believe that there would probably be a backup to revert to, but well, it depends. It depends. If like all that happened was like an old database had to be loaded because the new one was deleted, then I don't think it would be that big of a deal. But say for example, like the database got leaked again, and if that happened, then I think that'd be a huge hit to Brick Hill's reputation as a game.
Oh yeah, for sure.
From it.
Yeah, because it's understandable if the database gets leaked, like say, once when the site was very new, April 23rd, but if it was leaked again, like later on when there was like 500,000 users, like we're still feeling the effects of April 23rd, 2017 with only maybe 1,000 users or so. But if ever the database would be leaked today and all that wiped garbage would occur, oh man, I think that would spell more chaos than it did like the first time it happened.
And a lot of private info would definitely be leaked, like emails, IP addresses, stuff like that.
Another thing, I forgot to mention this, but those who spent money on Brick Hill back then, that information was not their credit card information or whatever, but information of each and every single transaction was present. That's how other users were able to target those with actual Brick Hill bots, because on the old database, these were logged. So I'm pretty sure nowadays they're still logged. So just imagine, you'd be able to see how many users bought things on Brick Hill, and like the malicious people who have leaked this database would obviously target those with the more transactions on their accounts just to create more damage and stuff like that, which is just a terrifying thought. Like, oh man.
Yeah, I believe that if this happened today, like, the forums would probably go absolutely crazy if this happened.
Especially in the Discord. Like, just imagine. Because most active users on Brick Hill, for those who don't know, like older active users anyways, chat on the Discord. Not many older users chat on the forums because it's there's nothing much to relate to on the forums, but on the Discord there's more active older users. So these users who would know more, who have actually spent money in the past and in the present, they would be going insane. They would want, chargebacks. They would want their money back, because all of this, because again, in the past there are some users who actually spent multiple hundreds of dollars on Brick Hill.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's users who have spent thousands of dollars on Brick Hill at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And at the time, the reason why it wasn't too bad was because there was maybe like one or two users who spent like less than $100 on Brick Hill, so it wasn't that big a deal. But today, there's been, like Rebecca said, there's been users who have spent thousands of Brick Hill bucks on that. So, not Brick Hill bucks, but real money, So just, the forums would also be going nuts. I'm pretty sure later on, since all of this was occurring, the site would crash because users would be swarming it to see if their stuff is fine. And yeah, it wouldn't be good. Which is, thank God, we actually have proper security, proper just effort put into making sure an event like this wouldn't ever happen again in the future.
Yeah, I think one of the primary issues with Old Brick Hill is like a lot of web developers had access to the database. Like Kwame, if I recall, he leaked the database because he had an old backup of it saved, so he just leaked that. And I'm pretty sure right now the only people who can access the database are like Jeff and me and Space Builder. So
yeah, only there's two staff members. Do you think Azai would have access?
No, he won't have access. No.
Okay. But yeah, so there's only around 2 users, and I'm pretty sure Jeffrey has limited access to it. I don't think he would be able to download literally every single aspect of the database whatsoever. So again, the fact that nowadays the database is way more regulated, way more strict than it was back then, that's just way better. Because I remember there was maybe 4 staff members at the time that had access to it, and the staff team was very, very small, smaller than it is today. So that was a majority who had access to it. So that just spells error. But again, we can't really blame Brick Hill back then because it was a new project. Rick Luke and Space Builder were both new to this. They were 16. They didn't really know much of what they were doing because at the time there was only Block City. No other competitor sites opened up around the same time that Brick Hill opened up. So they were the second one on the shoulders of 16-year-olds with a small team of people who are around the same age, which again, that's expected to have errors like that, expected to have learning curves like this. So
yeah,
really
one thing I wanted to say was if it happened today, people would definitely be a lot less forgiving, because back then Brick Hill just started up, people expected something like this to happen, people thought it was going to shut down or something, so I don't think people were that surprised. But if it happened today, after all the security improvements, I think people would be less inclined to forgive it and come back to Brick Hill.
Especially now that, Brick Planet's opening is on the horizon. If something like this would happen, that would spell disaster. And again, another fact, people are taking Brick Hill way much more seriously than they did when it first opened, like Rebecca said. So if there was something like this would happen, now this type of magnitude would have happened in the modern day, there's not much recovering to be done, right?
And that's not to mention the people that would make videos about it and spread it across the internet. Imagine the attention Brick Hill would get if people made videos on it and went, "Oh my God, Brick Hill's bad." That would be horrible.
Exactly, the negative attention that Brick Hill would get because of this would be awful. It would be Brick Hill's image would be crushed as a proper site. Like, especially again, like if the database was leaked, YouTubers who do Roblox content and stuff like that would be making videos on this. They would be just spreading this one little, well, not one little, but this huge event even further. It would make a big deal all over the place, which, let's face it, the newer users, the users who have been there since the start, they wouldn't want to go back on Brick Hill because it has happened once and it has happened twice. It's about to happen again. That's what people would think. So the major activity, the major users would leave, and that would be horrible. And honestly, there's not much you can say about it, but chances are this event, if it were to happen today, would put an end to Brick Hill. Nothing much can put an end to Brick Hill nowadays. It's just, if something like this would happen again, that this would be it, basically. Any other statements on what you would believe would happen during this event?
I personally don't think it would necessarily kill Brick Hill, because Brick Hill has a lot of potential. Like, people will hate Brick Hill for that if it happens, but I don't think that it will completely kill the game. It'll definitely severely and irreversibly harm Brick Hill, but I don't think it'll force Brick Hill to shut down per se, especially with how much money people spend on their website. That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah. Because again, if they spent that much money on it, they won't want to completely leave. They won't want their items to be wasted. They won't want all of that to just be gone. So I guess that can work. Yeah. But again, the thing is that less funds, because again, if all the transactions were leaked like it did last time, the old April 23rd, 2017 database, if people who active spenders their transactions would be released to the public again, that wouldn't be so good at all. Like, the active spenders wouldn't really want to spend much more money anymore.
Like, I think it'd just be a similar situation to the summer of 2017, where like at most 5 users would be online at once.
Yeah, the activity would spike up after the event, but after that it would go down exponentially until because I'm sure there would be a couple of loyal users. Like, thing is, if this has happened to me a couple of times, I wouldn't per se say I'm fine with it, but I'd stick around. With Phil, honestly, since I've been around for so long that if something like this happened, I'd stick around.
With that being said, does anyone have anything else to say about this?
Not much.
Right. Oh, okay. So with that being said, this concludes today's Brickcast episode. Friendly reminder that if you wish to support the podcast, there is merchandise links in the description. If you wish to stay up to date with the podcast, there is a Discord server link on your screen that you can join to get announcements and information about the podcast. You can also subscribe and turn on all notifications, as only 13.3% of all viewers are subscribed. And with that being said, once again, we hope you enjoyed.